Stephen Rogers, thanks for joining me on UpFront. President Trump said that these midterm elections would be, quote, a referendum on him. Given the Democrats won back control of the House of Representatives after 8 years, and they won the House popular vote by 7 percentage points, nationwide, the American people seem to have rejected him.
Well, I have to dispute that because the president's party won key gubernatorial races in battleground states that are going to be very, very important. We're talking about Florida, Iowa, Ohio, very important in the 2020 election. That's number one. Number two, when President Obama was in office, he lost 63 seats in a midterm, Clinton 40-something seats, President Trump only about 23. So the trend was always the president in power would lose seats. But the key here, and we can't miss this point, was the United States Senate. That is what the Republican Party focused on, because therein lies your control of bringing nominees in for the U.S. Supreme Court, yes, federal district courts, etc.
Yeah, he definitely held on to the Senate. What's interesting, though, is he campaigned for Senate candidates in Wisconsin, Montana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, all states he won in 2016, and yet those candidates lost in every single one of those states in Senate races. You mentioned governor's races. Well, Kansas, his close ally Chris Kobach, a state he won by 20 points, Stephen Rogers, he lost on Tuesday. He lost Kansas.
Well, you learn something in politics, and, you know, it's very difficult to transfer the popularity and the voting public from one candidate to another. So I would reject the fact that this was a repudiation of the president of the United States.
He made a referendum about himself, Stephen Rogers. I didn't. Let me ask you this. His response to these midterms was to fire his Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, on Wednesday. An Attorney General he's been publicly attacking for months now because Sessions didn't stop a special counsel investigation into the Trump campaign's alleged ties with Russia. Isn't firing the Attorney General of the United States for nakedly political reasons at best an abuse of power, at worst obstruction of justice?
Look, I've been in law enforcement my whole life. The Attorney General, Sessions, he didn't do his job very well. He was not aggressive. He didn't go after the DNC. He didn't go after Hillary Clinton with all that we know about her. And by the way, he should have. That means Sessions should have been upfront with the president about his conversations or his involvement somehow with Russia, which caused him to recluse himself. He wasn't honest with the president. So the president was patient, and that was the time to take the action he did.
It's funny that in defending the sacking, you're basically admitting it was political. You're saying he didn't go after the president's opponents. He didn't go after the Democrats, which is not the job of an attorney general to just go after the president's opponents. If Barack Obama's election campaign was being investigated by the Justice Department for its ties to a foreign government, and Obama had then fired the attorney general the day after he lost crucial midterms, your party would have gone nuts, wouldn't it? How can you not see the hypocrisy here, Stephen Rogers?
He did. This wasn't a political move. The Attorney General
you just admitted it was. You said he didn't go after the Democrats. That's the definition of a political move.
Well, who was involved? Think about this. Who was involved in that whole fiasco with the emails with Clinton? The Democrats, for goodness sake. Now, if it was the Republicans, I would be telling you the same thing. The Attorney General did not do his job, and that's why he is no longer Attorney General.
This is a president who is also accused of running a, quote, racist, nativist, fear-mongering midterm election campaign. He ran a campaign video combining footage of an undocumented criminal who killed 2 cops with footage of Central American migrants tearing down a fence, rushing across a border, as if they're all cop killers who the Democrats want to let into the country. An ad so inflammatory, so racist, that even loyal Fox News decided to pull it from the airwaves.
Absolute nonsense declaring that as racist. Everything, look, a picture says 1,000 words, okay? You can't change what's going on there. Now, you said I worked with military intelligence and law enforcement. You would be surprised what's coming across that border. You've got children that are not with their parents. You've got drug traffickers. You've got people perhaps bringing weapons across the border. They're trying to divert the fact that the president is trying to protect this country. And the fact that they complain about his term invasion, it is an invasion. All right? It isn't an invasion of an army as we would normally look at it.
It's not an invasion. People asking for asylum is not an invasion by any definition of the word invasion. And you were in the Navy. You should know that.
Well, I do know that, and I've got to tell you, it's an invasion of people who should not be coming here other than come here legally.
They are 700 miles away. Even if they were invading, they're not very close to doing it anytime soon. You know very well the entire caravan thing was a hoax, to use Donald Trump's very word. He hasn't mentioned it since the election. Fox News, a channel you regularly appear on, has stopped talking about the caravan. Funny that, the caravan just disappeared from the headlines the morning after the midterms. How convenient.
I'll tell you how it disappeared from the headlines. And by the way, they could have gotten asylum in Mexico and they turned it down. It disappeared from the headlines because the mainstream media is making it disappear. We find out that they're more interested in what? Just
Fox News is not running anything about the caravan. That's a channel you appear on. Stop blaming the mainstream media.
Well, who controls
Fox News? You tell me, a supporter of Trump called Rupert Murdoch. You tell me who controls the media. Do you want to tell us about who you think controls the media?
Yeah, the mainstream media. All right, the mainstream media is controlled by a lot of liberals, and they are
Fox
directing
News controlled by liberals. But let me ask you this question. Fox refused to run this ad. You say it's not a racist ad. Fox refused to run it. The networks pulled it down. Do you know who praised the caravan ad and called it a masterpiece?
Look, Fox News, for whatever reason why their editorial board pulled it, I don't know.
Okay,
but I can tell you
do you know
who
praised the ad as a masterpiece?
No.
David Duke, the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, called the ad a masterpiece. I wonder what appealed to him about that non-racist ad.
David Duke is a racist. He has no place and no word in the administration of the president.
We agree he's a racist. So why does he like your ad so much?
Well, look there are people that will praise things that, complete for their own political agenda. We can't control what people think and what they say, but you don't hear the President of the United States making racist remarks as some people are trying to lead others to believe.
His own former lawyer, Michael Cohen, who worked for Trump for more than a decade, has said that Trump told him, black people are too stupid to vote for me. That's not a racist remark in your view.
Did Donald Trump, did you hear Donald Trump say that?
No, Michael Cohen heard him say it.
So we're going to believe a guy that wants to cooperate with law enforcement to get himself out of a jam that he put himself in. Hey, I've had people work for me for many years, and they turned out to be creeps.
Okay, and you don't think going on about George Soros' role in a caravan that he had no role in at a time when George Soros is being targeted by racists who support Donald Trump, that's not racist or anti-Semitic in any way?
At the end of the day, when we measure what a person is doing, we have to not listen so much to the media hype and just listen to the words coming out of their mouth.
I think we're all listening to the president. Just one last question on the video. It's not just racist in the eyes of many people. It was completely false. It was a lie. The guy in that ad, the cop killer, was last allowed back into the country not under Democrats, but under George W. Bush. You know that, don't you?
Yes, that's a fact. That's a fact.
So
I will not argue that point.
The ad was a lie to say the Democrats let him back in.
It wasn't because it was under Bush and it was under Obama and it was under Clinton.
But that's not what the ad said, Stephen, as you know. The ad said Democrats let him back in to kill 2 cops. That's not true. That's false.
Doesn't make it a lie. Doesn't make it a lie. Did he kill cops? Yes. Did he laugh and... Did he say he wanted to kill more cops? Yes.
No. Did Democrats let him back in to kill those cops? No. George W. Bush let him back in. You agree with me on that, surely. That's the facts.
But under the Obama administration, because of very liberal rules and regulations regarding immigration, this guy was allowed to run free. So you know what? I'll agree with you. Let's agree on this.
You agree with me that campaign video was false to say the Democrats let him back into the country when it was Bush?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I'm confused.
Not at all.
No, let's take a pause. I'm confused. What do you mean not at all? He was let in under George W. Bush, not under the Democrats the last time he came in. So your video was false. Donald Trump's video that you're defending was false.
But he was allowed to run free under
Fair enough.
Obama
That's a different argument. That's not what I'm asking. The video said the Democrats let him in. They didn't say they let him run free. They said they let him in. It was George W. Bush who let him in last, after which he killed 2 cops. Why didn't the video say that?
I'm not going to I'm not going to argue that point with you.
Good.
I am
We both agree that was
both
false.
parties are responsible.
That's a different argument. I'm asking about the falsity of it. And just on this idea of kind of safety and security, you're a former naval man. You talk about migrants invading the U.S. Presumably, but you think Donald Trump wants to protect the U.S. The attacks that we've seen in recent weeks in the U.S., an attempted pipe bomb attack on 12 people that Donald Trump targeted, a massacre in a synagogue by a far-right shooter. These attacks were not carried out by anyone who came in on a caravan, were they? They were all homegrown, white nationalist, American-born terrorists.
Absolutely, okay. But you're not hearing about, and in some instances you're hearing about the child traffickers, the children who are here to be sold to others, the drug proliferation, the cartel people.
I'm not disputing that. I'm just wondering why Donald Trump sends troops to a border for a caravan 700 miles away for security purposes. Meanwhile, in the US, domestic terrorists are killing Jews in synagogues We don't hear so much outrage or protection measures from the president or from your party on that.
I'll answer that question. It's the same answer that we try to find regarding Chicago with the toughest gun laws in the country. Liberal, Democrat, socialist policies are destroying this country. There's no more rule of law because of what they've done.
You know the Liberal Democrats are not in charge of anything. I mean, they are now in charge of the House, but for the past 2 years, Trump has controlled every branch of government. In those 2 years, anti-Semitic attacks have gone up, homophobic attacks have gone up, anti-Muslim attacks have gone up, and the number of white nationalist groups has gone up, as you know, as a former intelligence man. Is that all a coincidence that this all happened on Donald Trump's watch? Complete coincidence, Stephen Rogers?
And
really?
the number of police officers have been shot that have gone up. See, you can't blame President Trump for all of the ills that are going on. These are Democrat socialist policies that are catching up with us. I have no idea
what socialist policies have led to an increase in neo-Nazi groups over the last 2 years.
I'll tell you what the socialist...
Was it a socialist who sent pipe bombs in the mail? It was a Trump supporter. It was a loyal, devout Trump supporter who went to the rallies, wore a hat, and he sent pipe bombs to 12 people who Trump targeted by name.
These are nuts. These are crazy people.
Nuts who support your president.
Listen. We can't stop people from supporting the things we do. We can't stop people who look at our TV stations. A lot of nuts watch us, okay?
You can stop saying violent, hate-filled things that are inciting these people. If Trump stopped saying globalists, stopped blaming George Soros for caravans, stopped talking about how he likes to reporters who are beaten up, and stops calling about enemies of the people, maybe some people wouldn't take those words and turn to violence.
Well, maybe if Maxine Waters, Eric Holder, and the rest of the Democrat crew would stop doing the same thing.
Really?
Okay?
Can you point to me a terrorist attack carried out by a supporter of Maxine Waters, please?
Well, you know what? The terrorist attack, all right, could be small or big. I think going into a restaurant and you have your wife and kids there and a gang of people go there.
And that's the equivalent of 11 Jewish worshippers being gunned down? Seriously?
I think, no.
So then why raise it?
I'm not saying it's equivalent.
It sounds like
I'm raising it because you're saying that what political people are saying
that Maxine Waters has never inspired in any way a terrorist attack. I'm asking you to clarify for me, and all you've got is restaurants.
They've inspired violence. What happened recently with Tucker Carlson's home? Antifa went to his home and terrorized. You want to use the word terror? Terrorized his wife and kids.
And is that the equivalent of pipe bombs being sent in the mail to the former presidents?
Of course not.
So then stop raising it if it's not the same thing. Let me ask you this. Let's circle back as we finish this interview back to the midterms. Are we going to see a changed Donald Trump post these midterms, post these losses in the House, post these governor losses? Or is it impossible for a man like Donald Trump to change, given changing political circumstances?
Well, I think he already indicated, and he has been consistent about this, reaching across the aisle. Will he change? He will not change with regard to his determination to keep America first. But saying that, even Nancy Pelosi had some olive branches thrown across the aisle to the Republicans and to the president. So maybe, just maybe, and maybe we could at least hope for this, that they'll all come together and do what's right for the country. The Democrats want to be successful. The president is a strong-willed individual. He's been successful so far. Hopefully everybody's going to come together and do what's right for the country under his leadership.
Stephen Rogers, on that note, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks for joining me on UpFront.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.